Hey guys, it's me, Arrow, and I am back. And today I'm reading an MHA, gender neutral reader, or listener for you guys. It's a villain Deku AU story. It's called The Seizing Hand by Born in Pride. By the way, I do not own the picture in the background. If you guys know the person who drew this or made this, please tell me. And so, also, swear warning. Sorry if I sound a little tired, I just got back from school. Anyways, yeah, swear warning. Mentions of violence, as to be expected. Anyways, gonna keep this nice and short, which I've already failed. Anyways, let's get into it. UA High. Everyone wants into that school. Izuku, Katsuki, my whole class. So how could that bring up such a devastating turn of events? I had found myself pushed into a wall near a window in the empty classroom. Bakugo's hands aggressively squeezed my shoulders, threatening me silently if I even made a move to escape. Applying for UA High shouldn't even be crossing you two's minds. Quirkless people can't do shit, so why would there be an exception for either of you? I felt afraid to speak, but I did either way. I muttered quietly, but with how close his face was, he could hear me perfectly. But I'm not quirkless. Oh, but you sure act like you are. If you aren't quirkless, then use your quirk now. You haven't used it in years. Maybe you caught some disease from Deku. My head hung low. I didn't dare to make eye contact. I could feel the spit smack my forehead and face as he continued to bark at me. Maybe if you used your quirks and... What? Maybe if you used your quirk and dumped Deku, you could seem useful for once. I saw Izuku attempting to pull Bakugo away from me, but a simple measly push got him toppling to the ground. I turned my head slightly, seeing his fearful eyes. I couldn't tell whether he was afraid for himself or me. However, I could tell he was angry as he gritted his teeth in frustration. But he still sat there, seeming hopeless. Considering that his notebook, Hero Analysis, was just burnt up and thrown out the window, I was surprised to see Izuku hadn't run out of the classroom while Bakugo was distracted tormenting me. But he was a good friend like that. Yo, Bakugo, one of the teachers is heading over, I think. Bakugo didn't pay any attention to his two thugs of friends as he continued his pressuring bicker about the exam. You're pathetic. If you think someone like you could pass the entrance exam, Deku would probably die and you'd have no one left. He suddenly but aggressively let me go, pressing me against the wall before stomping over to Izuku. My eyes widened slightly, now startled by what he was going to do next. Izuku, who now stood behind his desk, trembled in place as Bakugo got up close, bringing his almost ceaseless bullying session over to him. Izuku leaned back, making sure to be far away from Bakugo. Even he stayed silent, not letting a single word slip. Now listen here, Deku. If you don't want Wyan to attend your funeral, I strongly advise you to give up on this puny dream of becoming a hero. Grabbed onto his shoulder as smoke came from between his fingers, making the shoulder straps of his backpack char ever so slightly. Bakugo's sneering grin eased onto his face before his cocky tone rang throughout the room. Better start facing reality, nerd. I'll give it to you short and simple. If you truly want to become a hero this badly, why not take a swan dive off the roof and hope for a quirk in your next life? And with those final words, Bakugo and his degenerate slaves left the classroom, shutting the door violently. Even though they were gone, a still eerie feeling was left behind in the nearly vacant classroom. It was quiet, silent. Nothing between us for several seconds as I stood with my back pressed against the wall, not my head moving a muscle as my gaze stayed on the floor. My thoughts stayed lulled as I felt a gnawing feeling of guilt come overcome me. It usually felt like this, so I didn't pay any attention to it. I could hear the rustling of Izuku grabbing my school bag as his footsteps creaked along the wooden floorboards. I turned my head to see him gingerly holding up my school bag by a strap for me to grab. His forced, cheerful smile wasn't enough to distract me from his saddened eyes. I felt like crying, but no tears came out. Not like it would change anything. Could have been worse. Plus, there are more important things than crying, such as retrieving Izuku's notebook. There was silence. We made it down to the fish pool. Izuku plucked out the notebook, commenting on the fish trying to eat the blasted and now dripping wet pages. He fanned it out the best he could as we both started hiking down our daily route. Or route, whatever. I spoke up about the homework we would have to work on since we got home. I even jokingly complained about our teacher for how rude he was for ignoring Bakugo's obvious brash behavior. Not that it was my first time complaining about it. Izuku didn't respond, but I continued talking in hope that we'd both be able to get our minds off Bakugo for a while. But as I tried to make the atmosphere less harsh, I heard my name being called quietly as I turned my head over to Izuku. YN? I want to crush him. By the way, I'm not good at doing any voices. Anyway, I paused for a second before replying, slightly confused about Izuku's sudden comment. Crush who? Kachan. I brought my focus more on Izuku's face as I noticed his scary expression. He seemed angry, really angry, but his eyes looked more furious than Bakugo's ever did. His intense green irises glared down at his ruined notebook as his fingers curled into the damaged cover. He gritted his teeth as his irritated expression quickly became pure fury, even as he continued pacing down the street. Every step he took seemed more anger-induced after the next. Speaking about other topics clearly didn't get his mind off of Bakugo, but whatever he had been thinking about was starting to frighten me. So I grabbed his shoulder and shook him a bit to pull him out of it. It didn't work at first, but as I continued, and once we both stopped at our almost final destination, he finally lifted his head and blinked blankly at me. Oh. Hey, you good? He blinked once more before responding as he softened his grip on his notebook and softened his expression, now seeming puzzled and lost about what he was doing, reaching his hand to his face as his eyes widened in confusion. Yeah, I'm good. Just a bit pissed at Kachan. A small smile emerged on my face as I felt relief wash over me once his innocent, calm self was back. I don't think a bit pissed are the right words, but I can understand. It's fine, though. It's over. He sighed as he got ready to head to the right. He had a short, sad frown painted on his face, his eyes showing concern. Yeah, but whatever. Goodbye, YN. That's the best I could do. We both slowly paced to opposite ends as I headed left, waving goodbye till I eventually turned around. I trekked down the street as I contemplated on my thoughts. Whatever was going through Izuku's head had to be horrid. I've never seen him so angry. Maybe the years of bullying from Bakugo are finally bringing him onto the edge. A vibration and buzzing noise emitted from my bag as I scooped out my cell phone. It was oddly a text from my mom. Very brief and short, but she made an order for work and she wants me to retrieve it since she is going to have to take on another 2-hour shift. I sighed, slightly frustrated by the sudden request, as I sent a thumbs up and headed down a different street to go grab her package. I finally made it. The worker handed me a surprisingly small box that could easily fit inside my school bag, so that's exactly where I put it. I said goodbye to the worker at the store and walked out, sighing in slight exhaustion, relieved to have finished my task quicker than I expected. I began strolling through the city as I frowned, now becoming frustrated as I realized I was going to get home late. That homework was on a new subject, and I don't think I'll be able to finish it in time unless I got some help from Izuku. To the right of me, I began hearing a commotion. I turned my head to see a big crowd of people all huddling up to possibly see a villain getting his ass whooped by a pro. I rummaged through my bag before pulling out my phone. I know Izuku likes seeing villains getting beaten by pros. He was almost late to school today because he got caught up in watching a fight break out somewhere nearby. So maybe recording a fight could get him to cheer up. Maybe a new hero would show up or something. You never know. I brought my phone in front of me, already recording the action, but as soon as I got closer to the mob, I noticed a kid running towards the scene before I instantly recognized their unruly green hair. It was Izuku. Izuku was running at the villain. As I raced through the crowd, I immediately pushed my phone into my pocket. My breathing was hitched and staggered as I panicked. No way was that him. He's not that insane. If it wasn't him, then why would a kid just suddenly run up to a terrifying villain? I screamed out his name as I felt my insides drop once I noticed him. What? Huh? I felt my insides drop once I noticed him whip his yellow backpack at the villain. It was him. I finally reached where the crowd kept their distance, but just as I was about to take another step into the fiery pit of debris from nearby destroyed buildings, I felt someone grab my right wrist and yank me back before I could make it any further. I landed on the ground as I looked up to see who had grabbed my wrist before noticing it was a pro hero, Death Arms. No way in hell are you running in there too. I don't know how to do his voice. I'm sorry. I ignored his words as I swiftly got back onto my feet and attempted to sprint into the battlefield once more. But Death Arms quickly grabbed me again, now holding me to restrain me from running out. I tried to pull away from him. I had to stop Izuku. He was going to get hurt. But before I could yell out Izuku's name once more, I was cut off short as a sudden great gust of wind hit all of us. Death Arms hunched over me and tried and protect me from the air pressure. Once it was over and the dust started to settle, it began to rain as everyone's eyes went to the tall, muscly figure who caused it all. All Might. Not only did he wipe out the villain, but I could see Izuku in one piece laying on the ground with Bakugo next to him. Once Izuku and I finished getting scolded about running into random situations, we both started heading home. He seemed kind of upset, so I trailed shortly behind him. I texted my mother that I would stay over at Izuku's for some time. But before I could send it, I remembered the order in my bag. Hopefully it wasn't crushed or ruined. We both separated once more as we said our farewells to each other before I made my way down the street, taking a couple of turns till I finally found my way home. I sighed in relief, delighted to have made it back home safe and sound after the whole ordeal after school and that villain attack. I was just happy I had got as hurt as I could have. I wanted to take a nap, but I knew I had to finish my homework and make sure my mother's package was in one piece. I set my school bag on the kitchen counter as I pulled out the small box which held my mother's order. I huffed out a sigh once more, but not in relief. Instead, I had a slight feeling of aggravating anger come over me. The problem was the box was almost fully flattened. Damn. And that is all for this video. Hope you guys liked it. And I really have not much to say. So, also, sorry if my voices are bad. I'm working on them. I swear, I promise. I'm not used to doing voices. It's been a while since I've done any. So, I'm sorry. And sorry for any background noise as well. Anyway, hope you guys liked the video. Make sure to drink water and get good sleep every night. Don't be like me. And have a good day or night depending on where you are. Goodbye.